Actualmente, în Republica Moldova, există o mișcare pronunțată care pledează pentru aderarea la viitoarea zonă euroasiatică și părtașii acestei opțiuni se declară adevărați patrioți ai Republicii Moldova. Pe de altă parte, actualul guvern, după o lungă criză politică, este prea slab pentru a asigura o promovare în forță a opțiunii pro-europene. În aceste condiții, care este sfatul dumneavoastră pentru cetățeanul de rând, cetățeanul moldovean? Cum să reziste acest cetățean comun în fața ideii deocamdată destul de vagi de integrare europeană, pe de o parte, dar și în fața ideii deocamdată fanteziste de integrare euroasiatică, de cealaltă parte?
Well, speaking as a citizen of the European Union, the EU idea isn't a utopian idea, it's a boring idea, because it's all about bureaucracy and piecemeal economic reforms, about the long-term work of building a more European law-based society and an open economy. So you say your government is ineffective. It actually scores quite well on many measures. I mean, maybe the scorecard has got limited competition. The 6 states of the Eastern Partnership, Belarus has no reform whatsoever. Ukraine is regressing politically and economically under Yanukovych. Armenia, Azerbaijan are sui generis. Georgia is an interesting case because it gets lower marks for building democracy, but actually quite good marks for public sector reform. So the competition may be limited, but in many ways Moldova is certainly ahead of Ukraine, which is often thought of as the leader in the kind of slow bureaucratic work, which may be unspectacular. But the last time I was here in Moldova was 4 years ago, and only in Chisinau I can see the changes on the streets. There are more retail outlets. That may not be the end of the world, but there are some visible changes. And the perception in Europe, in Brussels, is that Moldova is making this steady and spectacular progress, but there are political problems at the top, particularly, of course, with the presidency. There may be changes there today. So, on the other hand, the Eurasian idea strikes me as vaguer. It's not clear what Putin has provided very few details for what was in essence a kind of campaign, manifesto, newspaper article. So the details of the project seem vague. There are big gaps in the project, particularly in terms of energy, which is issue number 1 for many post-Soviet states. So I'm well aware that Moldova has a divided electorate. So many people are tempted by the Eurasian choice, many the European. So we'll see.
But in Romania we have this proverb. Există un proverb la mai multe popoare care spune nu dai cioara de mână pe vrabia de pe gard. În acest caz, Uniunea Europeană este cioara din mână, pentru că mulți oameni probabil visează la renașterea Uniunii Sovietice și tratează viitoarea Uniune Euroasiatică ca pe o Uniune Sovietică reconstituită de Rusia și de Vladimir Putin în special. Este oare această Uniune un proiect fezabil?
It's a feasible project or not?
Not. I mean, clearly this is chimerical, utopian. It's 20 years into the USSR. State independence is now a given factor. A double factor, in fact, for a country like Moldova, which is clearly now much more firmly independent, both in terms of relations with Russia and relations with Romania. Statehood is solidified. In English we say a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush or in the sky. So yeah, the EU is the bird in the hand. It's quite a small bird, but it may be wriggling a bit, but it's there, it's feasible, it's tangible. Russia does make tangible offers, of course, but these tend to be much more political, direct trades, subsidies or whatever, and therefore are less reliable in the long term. Though, of course, I cannot predict the future of the EU itself over the next 10 or 20 years. We have our serious problems too.
Let me say very cynic.
Cum ați putea să-i convingeți pe cetățenii moldoveni că nu este vorba de propagandă pură, că Uniunea Europeană de bună seamă este o perspectivă predictibilă și favorabilă pentru Republica Moldova?
Well, because it's in Europe's interest too to have a stable and prosperous neighbourhood that becomes less of a neighbourhood and more part of the broader European family. Europe, free and whole, is still not entirely free nor entirely whole. Of course, the EU itself is very introspective at the moment. That's true. We have severe problems, which in many ways are getting worse. So I'm not predicting membership or even the prospect of membership in the immediate future, because the short-term problems within the EU are clear and massive. But the articles of the EU are clear. If the best strategy for Moldova is to make the reforms, the little bird gets a bit bigger, then if you follow the rules, then you're allowed in. It becomes very difficult to refuse you. That's the secret of the success of many of the Balkan states. Some countries didn't want them in, but because they ticked all the boxes, that opposition disappeared. Maybe not for Serbia, but certainly for Croatia.